We're here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Love Bay family, we're rising out of the ashes together. Our topic on tonight is The Journey, a personal story. We have with us our co-host, Carrie Hardy. Our guest for the evening is Evangelist Celestine Marks. Listeners, if you have any questions or comments for our co-host, you can email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. If you have any resources that you would like to share with us on a national or local level from your country, your community, local organizations, or your faith community, you can also email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. And with that, listeners, I want to ask you for your help with the resources. I give as much information as I can. I search for information on my own. I'm literally looking for information to share from around the globe. So I need your help. When you do send resources to me, I need you to send the English translation as well. I have to be able to translate the information, and I have to be able to make sure that everything is accurate, that it is what it's supposed to be. So in order for me to do that, I need the English version of it as well. So I thank you all so much for your help with that. And so at that, Carrie, would you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Hi, my name is Carrie. I'm a writer and I love telling people stories, and I'm really happy to be here tonight.
You want me to ask you how your contact information? How can
Oh,
everyone,
sorry. Sorry. Oh, yes, my contact information. Oh, so my email is imagesattainable@gmail.com, and my Instagram is Carrie Hardy 23.
Awesome. So, listeners, again, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure that you do, but for those who don't know, Carrie actually edited my book and she did a beautiful job on that. So, when I wrote Suffering in Silence, I wanted to be able to have a second set of eyes laid on my work to help me bring it to fruition, to polish it up. But I didn't want my words changed in any kind of way. And Carrie did exactly what I needed to be done, and she did a beautiful job. So I encourage you, if you have a writing project that you're working on, to reach out to Carrie, and she will be a beautiful assistance to you as well. With that, Evangelist Celestine Marks, you would
Yes.
introduce yourself to our listeners.
Good evening. My name is Evangelist Celestine Marks. I'm a former alumni of Lancaster Bible College, and I have my bachelor's degree in early. Excuse me, I'm kind of nervous. in urban ministry leadership, and I graduated in 2014. So I went back last fall, to get another bachelor's degree in biblical studies. So that's where I am right now. I'm retired. I'm a retired teacher. So, after I get this degree, I'm going to see where God is going to take me with this. Hmm.
And also, Love Bay Evangelist Marks is mother to Minister Arthur Marks, and my brother in the ministry who has been with us several times before. And we have already established that we will have the two of them back together to speak to us, to bring us a bit more along their path. Um, Listeners, we want to start with sharing some resources before we go into our topic. So tonight we have from Kenya, Africa, Coalition on Violence Against Women. Their website is covaw.or.ke. In Malawi, Africa, we have Center for Alternatives for Victimized Women and Children. Their website is cavoc.org. Their phone number is 265-052-3986. And in Mauritius, Africa, we have SOS Women. Their website is sosfemmes.intnet.mu. And with that, listeners, again, our topic for tonight is The Journey, a personal story. So, Evangelist Marks, I'm just going to ask you to take us through your journey. First, take a breath.
Okay.
Relax. Just breathe easy.
Can you just ask me one question so I can get started?
Yes. Okay. So I'll ask you a question. As I was thinking about the topic, the first thing that came to me is that we all have a different journey, and our journeys start in different places. And I think at times we can pick and choose where we want to remember, where we want to start over from, where we want to continue from. So I think the first question I would ask you is, where does your journey start? Is it somewhere in your childhood? Is it in later years, teenage years? Is it after you got married? Is it after you had children? So where does your journey start?
Oh, okay. I believe that it started in my childhood. Because when I go back, and like this morning, I was thinking about, the different things that I encountered when I was, when I was younger. And I was thinking, how old was I when I had all of these different encounters? So I thought about it, and I thought about my first one because I wasn't brought up knowing the Bible, didn't know how to pray. My mom prayed, every New Year's Eve. That's all I knew. So if I wanted to go to church or something like that, it was always Easter Sunday with my cousins, or, because they were Catholic. I was just a kid just trying to find my way. And I learned the Lord's Prayer when I was about 8 years old from a friend. She was a couple of years older than me, and she just told me about it. And then I had another encounter. I was walking because I came from North Philadelphia, and we lived all around in North Philadelphia. And my second encounter was one day I was just walking in the neighborhood. It was summertime because school was out, and I just heard this song, "Yes, Jesus Loves Me," and I stopped, and it was like a church, I guess a Bible camp or something. So I heard that, but I still wasn't, I wasn't paying it any attention. But anyway, then I had another encounter, and this happened when I was 8 years old. I had an aunt that died at 35, and me and my brothers were playing this place, Drunk Alley, in Philadelphia. And this particular day, it just started raining. And you know how when it rained and then the sun comes out and it's still raining? I'm looking up at the sky and I saw this cloud. So I ran back and I just stood there. Everybody else ran, my brothers and them, but I just stood there. And I told my brothers, I said, look, I just saw God. And this is a true story. So when I looked at it, it seemed like it was talking to me, telling me that I'm going to always take care of you, look out for you. This is what and I said to my brothers this. Well, I didn't realize that until I guess when a lot of things happened to me in 2012, where that dream came, where that vision came from. So I was asleep one day and I was fussing with my son in my dream. And I was saying to my son, I said, Rocky, I said, something is telling me to read Revelations. And read, I forgot, I think it's Revelations either 14 or 7 or something like that. I never, recently went back to it. But I know that in Revelation, it talks about guy, this not guy. This because I told my brothers when I was 3 years old, I said he had a crown on his head and he was just in this chair. And then when I woke up from the dream, I looked up Revelations and I just started reading it. And lo and behold, what I saw in that vision when I was 8 years old, I saw it in Revelation. So that was telling me something. That's my encounter. God always had a plan for me to look out for me. though as I was growing up, I didn't really have any guidance or, kind of too much like me and my brothers were homies in the neighborhood. We wasn't bad kids or anything like that. We was just trying to find our way. But as I got older, friends, stayed in, around them, and then I just kept feeling like something else has to change for me. So one year, I was in 7th grade, and my mom was very strict, even though my grandmother raised me. My mom was very, very strict, and she would tear you up for anything that you did wrong. So my girlfriend came over one day. They wanted to hooky school. So I said no. I said, because if my mom found out, I would be the one that would get in trouble. I would get the beating. So I didn't go. Well, that particular day, mind you, I was 12. We were all 12-year-olds. One of the girls, they hooky school went to Fairmount Park, and they were with some boys. Well, she got shot in the head. So I knew then God had a plan for me. Because when I think about these encounters that I had, all these different things, God had a plan for me. So when I turned like 17, I met my childhood sweetheart, somebody that I liked since 4th grade, who became my husband. And for years, I was like waiting for him. And I didn't know that he had emotional issues. I didn't know. So when I finally met him, he like a week later, he wanted to get married. I was 17. My dad was still around. That's the number one thing. And I had a real good relationship with my dad. But my dad died when I was 17. He was 39. And believe it or not, I am the third from his 29 kids. So, once I met my husband and after my dad died, I kind of like cleaned on to my husband. And I would say I got pregnant. I met him in 72. I got pregnant and it was my first. It was my first. And I always had this thing that I would wait for my 18th birthday, and the person that I encountered would be, the person that I would want to be for the rest of my life. But anyway, I didn't know he had, emotional problems. I didn't pick it up when he was abusive to his children. To his siblings. And before I had my first daughter, I was pregnant. And I was pretending, I was playing with him. We had an engagement ring, and I pretend that I lost it. And that's when I had the first encounter of him pushing me. And then after that, that was all she wrote. So I was in an abusive relationship, abusive marriage with my husband, who put me and my children through a whole lot, So all this time, when I think about it now, I believe that this was a part of my journey to where God brought me, where God has me now, because if my husband was still here, I don't think my son would be where he is, my daughters would be, my children wouldn't be where they are today, and neither would I, So, everybody knew what was going on, in my house, but I kind of act like there wasn't nothing going on because I don't know how it would be if I enter in my house, So, I just look at my journey now. I don't look at it as something bad has happened. I looked at it as it was a part of how I trusted. How can I trust God, through this whole process, to either to weaken me or make me, stronger, and to watch my children, go through what I went through, and seeing now, I know God is the reason why, we're here. You know, a lot of things went on inside my house. And then I go back to my childhood again and I think about it and I'm like, why did I allow myself to go through this? You know, he was my first boyfriend. I was with him for 19 years of my life. He died when I was 35, he was 37. He would always talk about suicide, you know, and he abused my children, especially my oldest son. He really put him through hell. My oldest, my sweet oldest, no, I can say all four. My youngest son, he didn't tolerate the mess, but my poor did. And my oldest son take the burden of everything. And a lot of the abuse happened when I wasn't home. This was emotional abuse that he put him through, physical abuse that was really bad. And he didn't work. My husband didn't work. He was a musician. I met him when he was a musician. He was a big time musician. Very, very talented. Very talented. He did not come from an abusive family. His mother worked, his dad worked. They all went to Catholic school, you know, but it was just him that had some problems, you know. So me going through that, kind of like, I don't know, taught me what I deserve. You know, I didn't deserve what he put me through because I put myself in that position. God didn't choose that man for me. But the good thing about it, my children came out of that. You know, and from that I got grandchildren from that. You know, married. You know, but I believe that still, like I said, it was a part of my journey. I was a city worker. Oh God, from 1984 up until, I can say, 2011. I was dedicated to the Department of Recreation. And I spent a lot of time. I worked in the community with a lot of young people. I had my own organization. I did all of this, and everything that I did based around my family, around my children. When I first started, before my husband died, I said, I prayed and I asked God to put something in my path so that we could come out of the house because he wanted us based in the house. Build up, he did not want us to come out. So the youth organization that I had, and then by the Catholic school hiring me, you know, so that my children can, you know, attend school that I had to pay for it. I just started becoming more and more into trying to do something that can base my family to be kind of like pulled away from what we were going through. But just thinking about it all the time, I believe that God made this pathway for me and kept me, you know, kept me from all this because he wanted me in that community to work with a lot of those youth, you know, and everything, you know, that I went through, I was still gotta say this was a part of my journey.
Yes. So I want to ask you a question, but before I do, I want to address something you said a few moments before, that God did not choose him. You chose this person, and you said that you put yourself in that position. In theory, I understand that. I understand what you were saying. My ex-husband, God did not tell me to marry him. I chose my ex-husband. That is not something that I prayed about. I didn't sit before God and say, is this your choice? Is this what you want me to do? I made that decision. Sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of times, all the time, we make decisions, but we make decisions with the information that we have in front of us. We make decisions to the best of our ability, and hindsight is always 20/20. But we make decisions with what is in front of us, with good intentions, with good expectations. No one intentionally says, I believe this man or this woman may hurt me, so I'm just going to still continue down the road with them. No, this person presented something to you to make you believe, even if it was falsely. They presented something to you to make you have hope, to make you believe, to make you just see, I can have a life with this person. I truly believe that I could have a life with my ex-husband. There was nothing that he said or did that showed me or told me he was abusive. I did not know. I didn't know until I was in it. And even though I did not ask God, I did not pray, that does not mean that I deserved what he gave me. That does not mean that you deserved the situation that you were in, because God is not pleased with abuse at all. So I wanted to say that, and I say that to say we have enough on our shoulders as victims and survivors dealing with what we have to deal with already. So we don't have to put any more on our shoulders. So there's a situation that we had to deal with, unfortunately, but thank God we got through it. But there is nothing that you need to add to yourself, that you did this to yourself, you put yourself in this. No, he did this. An abuser, a perpetrator, has to take responsibility for his or her own actions. So again, in theory, I understand exactly what you mean. I understand that, but I just wanted to encourage you in that way, because that's my story. I can say that God did not choose me. And I was married to him for 19 years before I left him. But there was nothing that said he's going to abuse you. What he showed me, the picture that he painted for me, and I was 18 years old when I met him. There was nothing that he showed me that said this is the life that you're going to live. And if I had it to do all over again, being who I am now, I would pray first. I would say, God, do. But other than that, still knowing what I knew then, what I saw then, there's nothing that would have said to me, don't do this. It's a bad choice.
Right. The thing about this is that, with my children, I kind of like took the blame because, how he died. And that night, when I was going back to it, and I said, because I was on the verge of like, I was going through a deep depression, losing weight. I was literally trying to take myself out of here silently, when he was alive. I was in and out of the hospital. But this one particular time, I just got fed up, and I'm like, I can't take this no more. And I, remember my son saying one time how I went upstairs in the room and I just read the book of Job and saw what Job went through. And then someone, my next door neighbor, she told me, she said, you got the patience of Job. So I still didn't understand what she was saying, even though I read it. I did not understand. But when I got out of the hospital that week, I had told my husband, I said, you got to work. I said, because, I'm in the hospital, I'm working. We were on welfare, mind you, but I was working without pay so my children can go to school. And that week, it was kind of different. That whole week of June, close to June the 9th, 1990. And the day before, because my kids were in, they were into singing. I had them all in kind of all types of programs, because my children are very talented and I had them in everything. And he kind of like tried to stagnate that. Now, mind you, he was a professional musician. But then that night before he did what he did, I just happened to get sick. So my neighbor took me to my mother's house. My mom told me to come down. And I went over there to my mom's and I stayed overnight. Well, my husband called me 5:30 that morning. He had a weapon in the house. He had the weapons all throughout the house. And he called me 5:30 that morning. He told me to come home so we can talk. So I said, no. I said, because we were going to counseling and the counselor said, if we get into an argument, we got to separate for a little bit and then, come back and try to work. But we've been doing that a whole lot until I said I had enough. So my son called and told me we were supposed to do a performance because I had a group then. We were supposed to do a performance, and my son called me and he told me, he said, "Mommy, Daddy is not home." This is like 10:30. But mind you, I talked to my husband at 5:30 that morning, and he told me to come home, and I said, "No, we got to cool off." So when my brother brought me home, it had to be like close to 11 o'clock. We looking all over for him. The children from my group, they were at my neighbor's getting dressed, and some of it was over at the rec center getting dressed. And we're still looking for him. So I told my son, Rocky, Minister Marks, which y'all call him. I said, go down to the basement and see if you see your dad. Because I said, remember, when we got into an argument before, because he would just start arguments. My husband used to do that. And he used to always accuse me of things. I was like scared to go to the bathroom. He might accuse me of the tidy bowl man. I was just afraid to just do anything, because he would accuse me. So my friend went down in the basement and he came back upstairs and he said, "Daddy down in the basement, get all this stuff around him." So I go down the basement. That's where I saw my husband, a pool of blood. He had shot himself in the head. But mind you, if I'd have came home that day, he took us all out of here. But my children did not understand that. They didn't understand how God removed me from the house that day. Because if I would have stayed like I normally do, God knows what would have happened. Because the people that he had held 7 bullets. And it was 7 of them. He would have took us all out of here. So my oldest daughter, they kind of still mourn him. They're in bad relationships, and they try to blame everything, the choices that they made on me. I can't take that no more. I'm not taking their faults and blame for what they chose anymore. But with that, so many different things have happened in my life other than what happened in my marriage. I was accused. I worked for the city for a long time. I was accused of mismanaging funds, and I ended up incarcerated. Never been in trouble a day in my life. I ended up incarcerated over a lie of someone else lying on me. But while I was in that cell, I just prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, and I prayed, and I was released. But we had to go through the court system because I wanted to prove my innocence. I went through the court system and everything. And, at the last part of it, the DA was playing games. He was playing games. The whole thing was about taking my pension away. And I'm thinking, I'm being punished. Why am I being punished? Is it because of what my husband did? And is it because of my children? And I kept them in this type of environment and everything. I just put everything on myself. And losing my job, losing my pension, all of this just happened. This crashed down again on me. But when I look back on it now, I'm like, you know what, God? If these things wouldn't have never happened, I wouldn't be where I am to know more about him at this point. If my husband was still, my oldest son wouldn't be where he is today. So I used to cry about it and just say, Lord, why me? Why did this happen to me? I've never been in trouble. I'm always, like we always say, we nice people. We don't hurt nobody. Try to be there for everybody as much as we can and stuff like that, But it's, I can say now at 68 that these things happen because I look at everybody else and see where everybody else is. And I look at myself and I see myself in a different space at this point.
So with that, then I would ask you my question. You lived through an abusive marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You survived the suicide of your husband. You survived being imprisoned wrongfully. You survived the.
I was just at the roundhouse. That's that one.
At the roundhouse.
But it was an experience for me to see other women, because I was like, Lord, did you want me to see this? Because the girls were actually talking to me. And they looked at me, and even the nurse that had to examine my blood pressure and everything, because before that I ended up in the hospital. They looked at me and they said, "You don't belong here. You don't belong here." And I just felt like I had to experience those things for me to continue on with my ministry. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
And so with that experience, with the experience of having to deal with the reactions from your children, how did you move forward? So with all of that happened, how did you move forward to get to where you are now?
When I lost I'm not even going to say losing my job. I was driving in my car, just driving, and this commercial came on, and it was about cuts. Center of, I think it's called the Center of Urban Theology. I'm sorry, the Center for Urban Theology. I think it was called back then. And I called my son about it and told him they were advertising this. So he told me to go for it. So I'm like, no. I said, you go for it. No, I'm not going to go for it. So I went for it. So I asked him, I said, Rocky, what do I do? So he said, go up there and ask for these two people. So I went down to Deliverance, where they had the open house, down to Deliverance, and I had this yellow piece of paper that my son wrote these two names on. And I showed I saw these two gentlemen standing at the door, classroom door, and I said, I'm looking for Mr. Fernando and Mr. Van. So they said, that's us. But then I walked into the classroom and I sat on the other side, and then the other classmates was on the other side, and I just sat to myself. And when I introduced myself and told them, what I was, in the community, I told them everything that was, going on in my life and everything. And they kind of chose the major for me, urban ministry leadership. So as I started going on in the class, learning different things and writing, I had a class with this Pastor Zach. I'll never forget him. He wanted us to write a letter to God, and then he wanted us to write our life calling. And I just started writing everything about me from the child, what I just told y'all, but I was writing it all in detail. I even wrote about me being falsely accused of mismanaging money. And I, wrote about the suicide. I wrote about what I was going through with my children and everything. And then after I graduated, my graduation day, when I walked up to get my degree, I just hollered out, Rocky, this was for you. This wasn't for me. But then after looking at that, I said, you know what, Celeste? You got to start doing something, and you got to leave all of that stuff behind. And then my middle son told me, he said, Mommy, get out of Egypt. I didn't even know he knew anything about Egypt. Keep on going back to Egypt. Every time you go backwards, you're going back to Egypt. Leave all of that alone, because there's something else out there for you. So now I see that some people look at their lives and they still want to live in that past. They still want to live in the hurt. I'm not going to do that no more. I stopped living in the hurt. I stopped living in the wilderness. My wilderness experience happened time I was 8 years. I became 8 years old up until 2012. That's when I was in that wilderness. I dealt with that wilderness experience. But then after that, and I, started studying more, meeting other people, meeting other women who've been through what I've been through. And when they hear my story, I'm hearing, Celeste, write a book. Or Celeste, you need to talk to Oprah. Celeste, you need to do something. And I sat on it. So now I'm like looking at it, it's time. It's just time. I can't
Well,
believe
look, I'm not Oprah, but I'm gonna start you on your way.
it's
But
time, because it's
yes,
more to my story than an hour's worth of telling,
absolutely. And I think what you said was key. You made a choice. I think that is the most important thing. There is trauma that we may have to deal with. It may be from childhood, it may be from our early years, it may be from adulthood, it may be marriage, it may be from, one who is supposed to love you. It could be anywhere in your life. It could be from work.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that you have trauma in all of these different places, but you have to make a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You have to choose to move forward. Now, you do have to deal with it. You don't just sweep it under the rug.
Mm-mm.
You have to go through your own process. You have to go through your own journey, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
You do have to face it, but you don't have to stay there. And that's about you making a choice, because nobody can do it for you. No one can be healed for you. No one can forgive for you, forgive a perpetrator, or forgive yourself. There is work that you have to do. And I tell people all the time, healing hurts.
Mm-hmm.
Healing is a process that hurts. When you break a bone, you go to hospital. In order for that bone to be set correctly and heal correctly, a doctor has to put you in more pain, because he or she has to set that bone, and it hurts.
Right.
You need it to be set the right way for it to be healed the right way. If a bone does not heal the right way, it has to be broken again.
That's true. That's
to do
true.
that correctly. Healing hurts. It does, but you make the choice to move forward. And I guarantee, whomever you are, wherever you are, once you make the choice to move forward, you will see progress. You
Right.
will be able to look back, and don't measure your progress with anybody else's. What
Mhm.
may be, a few inches, you may go a few miles. What you can do in a few days may take me a few months. But I guarantee, if you make the decision to move forward, if you make the decision to love you, if you make the decision to focus on you, you will move, you will grow,
Mhm.
and you will see things happen. So you'll be able to look and see, this is 2023, and you can see a difference from 2020. You can see a
Mhm.
difference from
That's
2018.
true.
You can see a difference from 2012, but you got to move in order to
That's
see
true.
that. Carrie, do you have a question or a comment for Evangelist?
I actually don't have a comment or a question right now. All I have to say is, you are amazing, Celestine, and you look fabulous. You look so good. I don't even remember what you said your age was, but I just remember being really shocked when you said it.
I
Um,
was too.
58.
you
But
look
I
so,
wasn't one of those moms that had kids when I was a teenager, because they like, how did you have a 50-year-old and a 49-year-old? I had my first child at 18.
you look
I was
so
41 at
good.
18. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I actually don't have a comment though, because I'm just still processing. Just listening to your story, I'm like still processing. So I actually don't right now.
Yes, so I totally understand that. So I want to share some more resources, and then we'll get back to it. In Mayette, Africa, we have the Association for the Status of Women and Victim Assistance. Their hotline number is 0269612949. In Nigeria, Africa, we have Project Alert on violence against women. Their website is projectalertnig.org. In Rwanda, Africa, we have Rwanda Women's Network. Their website is rwandawomennetwork.org. And again, listeners, I'm asking you to help me with resources. Send them in to me. When you do, please send an English translation if it is not English. That is the only language that I can read. And again, I just have to make sure that the information is correct and up to date. If you send it to me, we will absolutely share it for all our listeners around the globe to listen and to learn, so they can get help wherever they are as well. With that, Evangelist Celestine, I think I would ask you, how would you encourage another person through their journey?
First of all, I would say prayer at work. And know that whatever somebody say to you, I have to look at it as their problem. When people want to, like they say, hurt people.
Yes.
We, whatever, we just got to be on alert at all times of the people that we meet, the people that we bring into our space around us and everything. We just gotta, and we don't need anyone to validate who we are. That's the number one thing. No matter how you grow up and the many things that are being told to you, how you look and you're dumb, you're stupid, all this stuff and everything. The people that say that to you are the people with the issues. And it took me a long time to grasp at that. Um, but this is what I tell people now. Whatever someone try to bring into your space, and if it's negative, don't, like my mom used to tell me, you hard of hearing, you so hard-headed. And that's because a lot of things that was said to me, it kind of like stayed, but a lot of it, I went out. But I just encourage people to you know, just be mindful, pray a lot, and be mindful of everything that's around you now,
Yes.
because everybody has an agenda. That's how I see things. Everybody, a good agenda, a positive and a negative agenda. So we just got to just be mindful. We don't need someone in our lives to validate who we are.
Yes. Well, I want to say to you, I want to give my personal thanks because you've been a blessing to me. You've been an encouragement to me. And so I want to encourage you in that way for all that you have been through and all that you have come through. Um, there has been a positive effect because I know you've touched me. Even through, you all call him Rocky. I know Minister Mark, but even through Rocky, the man of God that he is today, and I've said to him several times, he is a great man of God. He has a beautiful heart, and this is a man of God who can preach. And I mean when I say this man of God can preach and he can teach, and there has never been a message that I heard delivered from him that did not touch me and minister to my heart in some kind of way. Every time he has spoken a word of God, it touched me in a place where I was hurting. It touched me in a place, and I believe that he knows and understands because he's a minister. As a minister, we can't walk into a church wearing our feelings on our sleeve. We can't walk into a church showing, I'm hurting right now. We can't walk in, about the breakdown, and we can't because we have to be everything for everybody else.
Right.
But there have been many a moon that this man of God stepped into the pulpit and he helped me and didn't know that I was hurting and that I needed it. And I believed because of who you are and what you were and what you are in his life and how you were able to come through and be there for him, whatever you guys had to go through, the rough times or whatever. I believe that a product of that is Minister Marks. So I'm thankful of that. And I know it sucks really, really bad when you have to go through and then you're hurting and you have pain, but then you have on the other side, then you can see the blessing. It sucks to go through the pain to get to that part, but I just want to thank you for allowing me to share in the blessing of what you have come through. I've participated in programs that you've put together that are encouraging for women, that are supportive of women, that are pushing women forward and ministering to their hurts, helping them to get through their healing process. So I thank you for allowing me to be a part of what it is that you do. With that, I would ask you, what are your future plans? Because like you always have something going on. And that's like you and Minister Mark. Every time I turn around, I'm getting a flyer.
Yeah. I was just called to speak on the 27th at 40th and Market. And the theme is faith over fear. So I have to write, something about that. I really want to try to find a venue where because we're losing so many young people, and that's my passion, young people. And I want to try, I don't want to scare them with the word revival. I want to bring them all together so they can find out why they were created, why were they born. Some of them don't even know their purpose, and they don't understand the trials and the tribulations that you go through to get you to where God is going to take you. So I want to put together some type of, with my granddaughter to preach. And I see
That's a little preacher right there too.
another young kid that's 12 years old. Oh my God, this little boy is awesome. I want to bring him together and a couple of other young ministers together to hold this event for these young people, and it's not to talk at them, it's just to talk about them and tell them their purpose, why you're here. You don't have to make your situation your problem. You don't. You learn from your situation. A lot of them don't know that. So that's another thing I'm working on. I'm still working on the women's brunch, and I really trying to push my son to open up his own church. So it's a lot of things that I have lined up. I'm looking for a mentor, a manager. I want to put a team together so I can be able to do all of this, because I know he told you about the drill team that I had and the youth organization that I had, and I pretty much ran that myself with some other help, but that journey is over. So I know God is putting me in another position now, since I'm learning all this other stuff, so that's what I have lined up.
Okay. So I commend you in that. And I just think it's amazing and it's needed to work with the young people, because our young people today are dealing with the issues that we dealt with as adults. Our young people are dealing with domestic violence, intimate partner violence. Our young people are dealing with suicide. They're dealing with depression. They're dealing with, as you said, not knowing who they are, not knowing what their purpose is. And, it's not about pulling them into church and making them become religious and making them fall in line. And you have to be here every Sunday at this time and open the Bible and sit here just to be here. And then after 2 hours, you leave. But it's really commendable to meet them where they are,
right?
To hear them, to listen to them, and then take them through. And I believe a huge part of communicating and dealing with our young people is to recognize their talents,
right?
To recognize their gifts and help them to hone in on their gifts, because some of those gifts lead into the purposes.
Right.
Some of those gifts will keep them out of depression. Some of the gifts will keep them out of trouble. I would rather you have a paintbrush in your hand and markers and coloring pencils and, drawing whatever. If you want to do clothes, you want your own clothing line, or, I would rather see you doing that, being creative, than sitting around doing nothing.
Right.
And, we say that an idle mind is the devil's playground. It really is. I mean, even as an adult, I know there are times, I just can't sit and just stay inside my own head, because I start thinking stuff and I make it worse than what it really is, because I'm in my own head by myself. And you got to get out. You got to get out, be around people who are helpful and supportive. And when you think about it, adults struggle with that.
Right.
So like even I'm 46 years old. I'll be 47 in May. I still struggle with that. So imagine
Mhm.
our young people. Imagine our babies. They're 13, 14, 15, 17 years old, thinking about suicide.
Mhm.
And even just having to see it in
Mhm.
front of them. That there when your child comes home and tells you my friend just killed himself or just killed herself,
Mhm.
or my friend was just killed in this accident or this fight or this gun shooting, that is devastating for a child to have to
Mhm.
deal with. And our kids today are dealing with that on a regular
Mhm.
basis. I,
Just
I rarely watch the news because I get tired of seeing,
yeah, see that.
people
Mhm.
get shot.
Just imagine I had to deal with that with my three oldest, the suicide
Yeah.
attempts, you know, and listening to a lot of the young people today, I had to tell one of my grandsons, I said, you know what, it's time for me to listen. And then my other grandson, I talked to him last week, and he's 25, and he dealt with, because of his mom, my oldest daughter, because I'm like, how can she go out here and save everybody else and she can't even save her own children? Her sons are hurting because of them being in with her in an abusive marriage. A man that wasn't even their dad abused them, and he just started crying. I said, "What's that?" I said, "Why are you crying?" He said, "Mommy, these are forever tears." All my grandchildren call me mommy, but he said these are. I don't. He said they don't stop. So I'm like, they don't stop. He said, no. That's because, and then he's trying to bring family back together because they grew up with all of us. We were just like one tight knit family. And he just, I think this is what's missing in his life, is this family. So just imagine this child feeling that way. I grew up with the same, even though I came from a big family, I still dealt with
Mhm.
loneliness within myself, because my family was all, one time they, good. The next thing I knew, they, some other stuff. I was getting in trouble for this, getting in trouble for that, being called names by my own family, and being pent to fight my own brothers and sisters. This is my family. But I just think about, then that's why I believe my passion is with young people, because like I told my son today, these are the ones that we gotta pass the torch to now. I said,
Mhm.
because if we don't pass the torch to them, where all of this is going to end? Where is it going to end if we don't pass the torch? Because the torch is not being passed no more, and that's
Mhm.
why there's so many lost mothers,
Mhm.
dads, children. Dads wanting to be friends, want to dress like teenagers, and stuff like that. But I just, these are the things that I think about every single day, every day, every day.
Mhm.
Once they learn their purpose and know why they're here, we got to stop saying, oh, we got this Stop the Violence program, or we got this going on, we got that going on, but you don't see no change because they still don't know who they are. They're
Mhm.
growing things just because all this stuff is going on, but they don't know who they are.
Mhm.
They don't know.
Well, I absolutely agree. Um, that hour went by fast. We are just under the hour. So when we're done, you have to go get Rocky and tell him.
No, you do
And
that,
text me back.
not
Oh,
me.
I will. I definitely will, but
You
you
do that.
emphasize it.
You do that. Because he'll think it's me. He'll think it's me again. Try to push him into something else. Because I had him in everything. He didn't tell you something. When he grew up, he was Michael Jackson. He had the long hair, the shoes, the suit, all. I used to put him in everything. Everything. Boy, he did singing, all of that. You know what I mean? So, yes, 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 yes. So
Okay,
you do that
I
first.
will. I will definitely reach out. When I reach out, then you just emphasize it. And the first question that I'm going to ask is about Michael Jackson. But we are just under the hour, and just in this moment right here, I want to emphasize, listeners, wherever you are in your journey, uh, it does get hard. there are some painful spots, but I am telling you that there is joy, there is laughter, there is a true healing that takes place, and you will be able to sit and just enjoy your moments by yourself
Yes.
or with other people. Because
Yes.
I'm telling you, I'm going to laugh about Rocky and dancing and singing for a minute. But your journey is your journey. There are some tough spots, but there are some beautiful places too. But you have to be willing to put the work in. And
Yes.
I want to say, going through your journey is a deeply personal process. And I thank you, Evangelist Celestine, for sharing with us. But listeners, your journey may be a place where you walk through and you don't share it. And that's okay. Your journey may be a walk that you take,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just you doing your thing. It's absolutely okay. You do not have to stand on rooftops and shout your story out. You don't. But what you do have to do is move and make progress. That's what you have to do.
Amen.
So, with that, I want to give you the last words of the evening. Evangelist Celestine Marks, please, just what would you leave with our listeners around the globe on their personal journeys?
Hey, know that whatever happens in your life, God is there, and He's only preparing you for where He's going to take you. That's it. He's only preparing you. So don't give up. Just keep on. Just keep on. Just keep on. Compare yourself to somebody in his book of life. Compare yourself to somebody in there, because I did. Joseph, everybody, Mary.
Daniel, Meshach, Shadrach, Abednego, and then finally
Okay, because when I'm riding on the expressway, if it's crowded, I'm like, Lord, please park this road like you parked the Red Sea. Yes, I do. And next thing I know, road is clear. Okay, so compare yourself to somebody in Scripture, because God has the same for all of us. Okay.
Yes. Thank you again so much for being here. I am looking forward to you coming back. I am looking forward to you coming back and being here with Rocky. Listeners, we want to thank you for being here. If you want to catch up on previous episodes from our program, you can visit our YouTube channel, Suffering in Silence DV. We want to thank you for joining Suffering in Silence with Minister Tia on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We're here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. And Love Bay, we want you to remember that we are rising out of the ashes together. Good evening.
Good night.